Welcome back, and thank you for joining with me again. I want to talk about politics today. I've been watching President Trump's actions quite a bit over the last few weeks since he was inaugurated, and especially the situation with his executive orders. And I want to talk about four of them today, four executive orders that really should never have happened. Now, not just because he shouldn't have done them, he should have, but the fact that they even needed to be done, that's where the problem was. I want to talk about them today, and here's the four executive orders I want to talk about and share with you a little bit in case you're not keeping up with this too much. First of all, he made the executive order that there's only two genders and that men should not be allowed to play in women's sports, enforcing the Hyde Amendment, and then reinstating the Mexico City policy. If you're not familiar with any of them, I'm not obviously going to read the whole thing. You can read them. You can download them online and read them. I just want to give you an idea of what they are, because these never should have been happening. Never should have happened. And Trump even said that in one of them. I think it was maybe the two genders one. He's like, there's no reason even we should have to do this. This is crazy, but you have to do it because of the crazy situation the world is in today. And so they should have been unnecessary, but Trump had to do them. So the problem is that Trump is following Biden, who is arguably maybe the most liberal president ever, possibly the most inept. Some of the things he did were just disastrous for the country, including these things that Trump is overturning in his current executive orders. So these are so important that he had to do them, and he had to do them within the first few days, in the first couple of weeks of his presidency. This never would have happened if Kamala had been elected. Some Christians want to talk about how we shouldn't vote. We need to stay out of politics. I don't know. I want to say it stronger maybe than I should, but what a dumb statement to make, because how we vote affects how we can live and what goes on around us. These things wouldn't happen if Kamala would have been elected, because some of these things happened in the Biden-Harris administration. So she's not going to overturn them. She probably wouldn't have even taken it further. So the fact that people came out, love Trump or hate Trump, that's not the point here. People came out and said, we're going to stand against that trash that came out of the Biden administration, the DEI and the transgenderism and all this kind of stuff. We're just going to get rid of all that. We're going to vote for somebody that at least acts like he's going to stand against it. And so far, Trump has. And so this is not just a pro-Trump anything. These four executive orders, I think, are awesome. Now, if you have watched my videos sometime last fall before the election, I put out a video. I called it 4 Reasons to Vote, and you should go back and watch it at some point. Here's the 4 reasons, though, that why Christians should vote. Number 1, the government is God's business. Okay, we shouldn't just stay out of it. This is God's work. Number 2, if we keep the truth to ourselves, pretty soon that'll be the only way we can keep it. If we just say, well, I'll practice Christianity in my own little way, and I'm not going to go out and get involved in government, pretty soon you're not going to be able to tell anybody. Pretty soon it's going to be hate speech for you even to give the gospel or to say that gay marriage is wrong and things like that. So you've got to go out and share it outside and stand with people who will stand with you on what you believe. Number 3, the law is a teacher. But why do you think we got so involved in DEI and transgenderism and all this? This is a social contagion. People think this is the way the world's going. I'm going to go that way too, because people don't think. People are lazy and they just want to go the way that everything is going. That's why you see today so many companies are overturning their DEI policies. Why? They thought that's what everybody wanted, and now they say it's not. They have no character. They have no morals. They're just going whatever way they think it is. And some people don't know if everyone's accepting transgenderism. That must be okay, right? They're not thinking. They're dumb. People can be really, really stupid and just follow along with things that are around them. When there's laws made, some people are like, oh, maybe there's another way to look at that. And whatever way most people are going, that's the way that some people are going to go, because they're sheep, okay? And so we have executive orders. Some are going to stand against it. Some are going to, say we don't believe in this. But over time, some people be like, oh, okay, well, maybe we shouldn't have transgenderism. People just waffle all over. They don't think for themselves. And number 4, silence is consent. If you say nothing, it's your fault. Okay, if you went out and you did not vote in the last election, you can't take any credit for anything good that happened. You can't complain. I don't even want to hear from you. I don't want to hear anything if you didn't vote. I really don't care what you think about politics or anything that has to do with abortion or anything like that. If you didn't vote, I don't care what you think, because you did not have the character enough to go out and do something about it. Okay, that said, let me talk about these 4 executive orders that Trump has put out And that I think you need to read. Some of these are, a couple of them are really short, but I think you need to read them. They're really interesting. Number one, and I downloaded them here and I highlighted a few things to share with you. So let me just share these with you. Number one, defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government. I mean, all you need is a title, right? Defending women from gender ideology. It's just crazy. So it's just crazy that this is even a thing. How can this even be a thing? So let me just read a little bit to you. It says, across the country, ideologues who deny the biological reality of sex have increasingly used legal and other socially coercive means to permit men to self-identify as women and gain access to intimate single-sex spaces and activities designed for women, from women's domestic abuse shelters to women's workplace showers. This is wrong. Efforts to eradicate the biological reality of sex fundamentally attack women by depriving them of their dignity, safety, and well-being. The erasure of sex in language and policy has a corrosive impact, not just on women, but on the validity of the entire American system. I'm sure President Trump didn't write that himself. He's got writers doing it, but it's very good. He says, this unhealthy road is paved by an ongoing and purposeful attack against the ordinary and longstanding use and understanding of biological and scientific terms, replacing the immutable biological reality of sex with an internal, fluid, and subjective sense of self, unmoored from biological facts. I mean, I wish I could have written that paragraph. That is so awesome. Gender is not fluid. It is what you are. It is observed at birth. It's not a sign. That's a term that you will hear used. I think that's just a great paragraph. Down to this next one. Accordingly, my administration will defend women's rights and protect freedom of conscience by using clear and accurate language and policies that recognize women are biologically female and men are biologically male. Can you imagine 50 years ago having to say something like that? That's why this should have been unnecessary. It's just so stupid that this even has to be brought up. And then under Section 2 here, it is a policy of the United States to recognize two sexes, male and female. These sexes are not changeable and are grounded in fundamental and incontrovertible reality. Okay, I mean, what else can you say? Well, okay, but now we have to define sex, okay? Sex shall refer to an individual's immutable biological classification as either male or female. Sex is not a synonym for and does not include the concept of gender identity. Why can't our last president have had some kind of common sense like this? And then obviously there's more here, but female, what's a female? I mean, why do you have to just define a female anymore, right? It's a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the large reproductive cell, the egg, and male is a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the small reproductive cell. This is not rocket science. This is pretty simple to figure out. Gender ideology replaces the biological category of sex with an ever-shifting concept of self-assessed gender identity, permitting the false claim that males can identify as and thus become women and vice versa. So if you've ever wondered what's going on in the whole transgender argument with everything going on, just read this executive order. It just sums it up so well what's going on out in the world. There's so many other things to read. I didn't want to read the whole thing because why you're going to watch this video, you can read it for yourself. But I want to see this. The prior administration, that's Joe Biden, argued that the Supreme Court's decision in Bostock versus Clayton County, I feel like I may have done a video on that, I don't remember, which addressed Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, requires gender identity-based access to single spaces under, for example, Title IX of the Educational Amendments Act. This position is legally untenable and has harmed women. In other words, you're supposed to have equality for women, right? Women should be able to go, but you can't keep something from someone because she's a woman. Well, what if a man thinks he's a woman? Now he gets to go wherever a woman should? This is lunacy. This is lunacy, but this is what Biden was pushing. And some of you, if you're Christians, you may have voted for him. I can't understand it. Federal funds shall not be used to promote gender ideology. There you go. I don't want my taxes paying for that garbage. Let's see. Is there anything else? No, that's it as far as that one goes. So that is, that's the first executive order I want to look at. The second one is it's entitled Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports. Let me get that one for you. Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports. Again, the title says it all, right? Why would a man want to be in a woman's sport unless if he says, I can't win against other men? And I'll tell you what, a man who needs to find weaker physically opponents because he can't win, he's a sissy. Okay. Can you imagine when we were in school, if there would have been some kid, well, I want to join the girls team. Like, what is wrong with you? I mean, really? Oh, but now it's accepted, right? And it's dumb. Keeping men out of women's sports. In recent years, many educational institutions and athletic associations have allowed men to compete in women's sports. This is demeaning, unfair, and dangerous to women and girls, and denies women and girls the equal opportunity to participate and excel in competitive sports. It's taking away from women. That's why women are standing up against this. Moreover, under Title IX of the Education Amendments Act of 1972, Title IX, educational institutions receiving federal funds cannot deny women an equal opportunity to participate in sports. It's not equal if men can play in their sports. Therefore, it is a policy of the United States to rescind all funds from educational programs that deprive women and girls of fair athletic opportunities, which result in the endangerment, humiliation, and silencing of women and girls and deprives them of privacy. Okay, good job to the Trump administration. Let's look down here. This is one I like this, because the Olympics are coming soon. The Secretary of State shall use all appropriate and available measures to see that the International Olympic Committee amends the standards governing Olympic sporting events to promote fairness, safety, and the best interests of female athletes by ensuring that eligibility for participation in women's sporting events is determined according to sex and not gender identity or testosterone reduction. So I've seen something recently where I guess Trump said that, they're working with the IOC and say, we are not going to allow transgender people to come in during the Olympics. And it was interesting because Trump, he said he worked to get the Olympics here, but he wasn't going to be president when the Olympics came. But guess what? Because he had that 4-year hiatus, now he's going to be president when they come. And he's saying, we're not going to allow men to come to this country. I think, is it in Los Angeles? I forgot to look that up. We're not going to allow men to come in this country saying they're women so they can compete against a woman. That's not going to happen in the United States of America. So cool. All right. So the next one, executive order. These last two have to do with abortion. It's enforcing the Hyde Amendment. Enforcing the Hyde Amendment. The Hyde Amendment is basically a rider that is attached to the annual appropriation bills in Congress, and primarily, it shows up in several places, but primarily attached to the Labor, Health, and Human Services and Education Appropriations Bill. They're all clumped together there. And basically what the Hyde Amendment does is it prohibits federal funds from being used to support abortion. Some maybe around the world, but basically here in the United States, sometimes called the domestic gag rule, and to a degree. Okay, it says, for nearly 5 decades, the Congress has annually enacted the Hyde Amendment and similar laws that prevent federal funding of elective abortion, reflecting a longstanding consensus that American taxpayers should not be forced to pay for that practice. However, the previous administration disregarded this established common sense policy by embedding forced taxpayer funding of elective abortions in a wide variety of federal programs. There's a shocker for the Democrats who brought abortion, to their convention. It is a policy of the United States consistent with the Hyde Amendment to end the forced use of taxpayer dollars to fund or promote elective abortion. And there's not a whole lot to that. That's pretty much it. In other words, let's enforce this thing, okay? No federal money being used for abortion. Then we have the Mexico City policy. This one might be a little bit newer for you, might not have heard. This one is often called the global gag rule. It's a policy going all the way back to Ronald Reagan. Basically what it does is it prohibits federal funds, United States federal funds, from supporting abortion or even, depending on the exact wording of it, abortion or even counseling for abortion or promoting abortion or recommending it for international agencies, whether it's government or NGOs, non-governmental organizations, things like that. Our funds cannot go to do it. And there's a lot of details on all this about, like I said, the language will change over time depending on who's the president. It's put in place by basically Republican presidents and rescinded by Democrat presidents. So obviously Trump put it in, Biden took it out. Trump's saying, hey, we're going to do this again. Okay, so it says, I hereby revoke the presidential memorandum of January 28th, 2021, that's Biden's, for the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and the Administrator of the United States Agency for International Development. We've heard about that one lately. And reinstate the presidential memorandum of January 23rd, 2017 for the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and the Administrator of the U.S. Agency for International Development. He says, I further direct the Secretary of State to take all necessary actions to the extent permitted by law to ensure that U.S. taxpayer dollars do not fund organizations or programs that support or participate in the management of a program of coercive abortion or involuntary sterilizations. In other words, we can't pay for any kind of abortions anywhere around the world. So those are 4 executive orders by Trump that never should have happened, but they had to happen. Why? Because America has gone crazy because people are buying into all kinds of ridiculous stuff. And Trump, fortunately, has come in and said, no, we're not going to do that. Now, does Trump really believe all this? Is he just paying back favors? I don't know, but he did it. That's why we vote. Okay, that doesn't mean I like everything Trump's doing, but those things, and I mean, he signed his stacks of these things, right? How can you keep up with him? Just watch him as he takes questions from reporters and just signing stacks of these things. Some of them, you know, don't hold that much interest to me, but these really do. So that's why voting matters, and I hope that Trump will continue down this line. I hope that people will see laws and executive orders and things, even if they don't think about it, they see it as a teacher and say, you know what? Maybe not everybody believes this stuff. Maybe we need a little bit of common sense. So I hope that helps you a little bit in understanding what's going on in our government. Take care and God bless.